Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mary Thompson, reporter with CNBC, for a conversation with Ken Chenault.
Thank you.
Well, how does it feel to be in a room with a bunch of people who want to eat your lunch?
It feels great because I love competition, but I also love winning.
Okay. Would you ever think that payments would generate this much excitement? I mean, you see the number of people who are out here, it's double the number last year. I mean, the excitement that you could feel at this conference, would you ever think this would happen?
I think what's very clear is if you think about payments broadly, payments really enable people to do things with their life. And payments is about commerce. Payments also, you can't always predict what will happen. But the reality is that payments really touches every aspect of commerce and lifestyle. So I think what we're seeing is this goes together with the convergence of online and offline.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that later in detail. But why don't you tell us, I'm not sure if everyone in the audience knows, a couple of things about American Express. First of all, it's 164 years old. It's been one of Warren Buffett's core holdings, core holdings for a very long time. I think
we like that.
Yes, that's a good thing. I think a lot of people would like to be one of his core holdings. But you've been with the company since 1981, CEO for the last 13 years. How do you make sure that the company remains a leader and remains relevant, especially at a time like this when there's so much competition?
I think what's very important for any company, no matter the time frame, but particularly if you're 164 years old, you have to have this spirit of reinvention. And that's what we really have in the DNA of the company. One of the points that I make in our company is that, one, you have to be clear about what your mission is. And if you think about American Express through 164 years, what is constant? What's constant is that we are a service company. Service is in the soul of our company. And you think about the attributes, which I think fit very well in the digital transformation that we're all going through: trust, security, service. The other point that I make in our company is literally, if you don't innovate, you die. You have to constantly innovate. You have to constantly challenge the status quo. And one of the points I make consistently to our people is we want to become the company that will put us out of business. We, in fact, have demonstrated willingness to cannibalize our business. And often what happens with companies, the things that made them successful, the products and the businesses, they then become very cautious about challenging that status quo. The status quo is the enemy. So one, what I point out is embrace change, but also understand that you need to meet the customer needs by offering them differentiated value, and you've got to innovate, innovate, innovate.
So walk us through the step. I'm sure you see a lot of ideas come to your desk. American Express, as you indicated, is not afraid to change, not afraid to embrace new ideas. So give us an idea of when an idea comes forward, what is the process that it goes from here's the idea to here's the product?
I'll give you 2 or 3 ideas. I'll give you one that came out in the early 90s, membership rewards, which has grown into the largest loyalty program in the payments business. What was very important about that is one of the things that we challenged was we said, we've got to figure out, if you will, almost alternative currencies. And some people said to me, well, Ken, if we offer rewards, that's going to impact our margins. And I said, but you don't understand. What we're trying to do is engage with customers to drive loyalty and to drive spend. And so that was a situation where I put together, frankly, a small team of renegades in the company. And at that time, I was 3 or 4 levels down. I did not communicate to top management what we were doing because I wanted to get it to a point where they couldn't kill it. And then we pushed it. And we fortunately were able to get it through.
Now that you're one of the top guys, how do you make sure that you keep out of it so that they can get it to the point that they don't kill it, that you don't kill it?
Well, fortunately, I don't have a reputation for killing good ideas. But what is absolutely essential is to inculcate in the organization a spirit of testing and experimentation, a behavior, and you'll hear this term in our company, of constructive confrontation, that I want people at all levels to challenge. And in fact, to provide them with the opportunity to create different ideas. And the terrific thing about the world that we're in today is you don't need a large infrastructure. You don't need a large organization. You don't even need a large team to, in fact, bring about change. But if you want to be an entrepreneur in a large company, you got to do the same thing that you do if you're operating a small business. Is you've got to be willing to be a champion, you have to be willing to advocate, and you have to be willing to take accountability for success or failure.
So how have you institutionalized that? Can you be more specific about the structure and how you allow this creativity to happen, this entrepreneurship?
We've done several things. The first point that I would make is that with respect to the digital transformation that we have undergone over the last several years, I said every single business and person has to be involved in this. There were some people, in fact, who were not willing to get on the train or, in fact, did not have the capabilities. They are no longer with us. Not a value judgment on them, but what's very important when you set the direction, you've got to get the team moving. The second thing that we did was we educated the organization to the advantages of our model. American Express has the largest global integrated payments model in the world. We are in every aspect of payments, and we're connected. And so what was critical was to demonstrate that we could partner with a range of companies, whether that was Facebook, whether that was Twitter, whether that was Foursquare, whether that was a startup, and to encourage our people to do that. The other was, in fact, to set up certain businesses that, in fact, would compete with each other, which I've done consistently throughout my career. The key thing is to be aware of what the overall strategic objectives are of the company. And for us, we really want our company, American Express, to be a more welcoming, inclusive brand. And we want to offer a wide variety of products and services to meet the needs of our customers.
Let's talk a little bit about some of your partners, both on the high end and the lower end. How long did it take for you to decide, yes, we should partner with Apple Pay?
It really didn't take long. We'd had a number of conversations over the years with Apple, and I've gotten to know Tim Cook well. I think that what really impresses me about Apple is not just that they are innovative, but their commitment to service, their commitment to quality. I think that they were very thoughtful and diligent in how they approached the payments opportunity. And so we were very, very pleased to partner with them. It was not a hard call at all, because I really believe in what Apple stands for. And we also have a philosophy that we want to be wherever our customers want to be.
It's not really disruptive in any sense. It's basically an added layer on the payment structure. So my question to you is, some people have already said, you know, Apple's bringing in companies like Visa and MasterCard and American Express, but what happens if they turn around someday and they buy Discover Services or Discover Financial and say, we're going to use their network and we don't need you anymore?
Well, here's the point. The reality is that you can take a defensive mentality and say, I'm going to hunker in the bunker because I'm not sure what's going to happen. We have a lot of confidence in the unique capabilities that we have. Here's what's very important about what we're doing with Apple Pay. To your point, I actually think it's smart that Apple has built on the existing infrastructure. The reality is, does Apple want to be involved in credit? and all that goes with that? I don't think so. I think they're clear about what their core business is and what their core mission is. We compete with all types of payment providers. Let's be very clear, I have banks that issue Amex branded cards that also issue Visa and MasterCard. And I compete with them, and people said to me in the company, Ken, how can we work with banks and they compete with us in different ways? The reality is, what I'm offering is different products to meet customer segment needs, and we have a willingness to partner despite the threats that are out there. I think that takes a very defensive mentality. That's not a leadership mentality. And I believe that we're going to continue to innovate, and I'm not scared of competition and people changing.
What you are changing, I think, is the American Express brand, in that you are making it more inclusive. Years and years ago, when I was a college student, it was a bit of cachet to have an American Express card. Not that it isn't now.
It still is.
It still is, of course. But you've recently partnered with the likes of McDonald's.
Right.
You have the Bluebird card with Walmart. So when you made the decision to kind of step out of what people traditionally think of as an American Express partner, what was behind that?
Here's what's important, and I think I've said this in our organization, is it's critical to understand your history. American Express started out as a freight forwarding company. What's prestigious about moving goods from point A to point B? But the brand attributes of trust, security, and service came out. The traveler's check, one of the most innovative products ever created in payments and financial services, had no income requirement at all. So the issue is, we're not moving away from the affluent segment. What we are doing is we're becoming more inclusive, because I think it is critical in our society to in fact meet the needs of all customer segments, but to do it by providing the right product with the right economics and providing the right level of service. So we have not seen any diminution of the brand. In fact, we've seen the brand enhanced as we become more inclusive.
You still run a business, and you still have yet to break out what these contribute to the bottom line. At what point, you know, is the scale at a point where you can say, okay, this is what we made, and give us some more insight about these services as a business?
So here's the point. We're in the early stages, and I think it's critical to go through the range of things we're doing. So if we take our reloadable prepaid product, that's in the early stages. Mobile is playing a very, very important role in the growth of Serve and Bluebird. We did release some numbers, and some of those numbers are that 90% of the customers that we're bringing in on Bluebird and Serve are new to our franchise. 54% of our Serve customers are under 35. We released a number that the first 4 months of 2014, we brought in 2.6 million customers, 1 million customers in April alone. $1.9 billion in the first 4 months. So the reality is we are off to a good start, given that we just relaunched the product around 1.5 years ago. So that is moving well. What's also critical is to understand what's happening in the existing business. We were the company that pioneered the capability of connecting the card account to a variety of social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare. And that was really leveraging our integrated payments model. So we're expanding online in a major way, and we're expanding in mobile in a major way.
You were, as you said, open to embracing social media. When you went through that, are there any mistakes that you made that you can share with the audience as, you know, as they look at their own businesses and say, we should have done this a little differently, or this is something that we should have thought of before we went in with it?
Look, at the end of the day, and I'm very open and transparent about mistakes that we've made, we haven't really made any big mistakes, and I'll tell you why. Because we went into social media understanding that what we wanted to do was to create a personal, authentic relationship with our customer. So we've built strong followers on Twitter, on Facebook, on a range of social media platforms. And part of what we do is we engage in dialogue. So the servicing that we do, card members can criticize what we're doing. Some people said, well, do you really want to have this all out there? Absolutely. And what we found is that we've come across as a more authentic brand, that people like the fact that they can engage with us how they want to engage with us, where they want to engage with us, and then we're providing them with this platform that delivers services to them. So one of the things that you can do is with your card, you can decide on your mobile phone, you can look up your statement, and you can decide what purchases you would like to use membership reward points for. That is unique in the industry, and the flexibility that provides the customer is very significant.
Let's talk about the payment landscape, because we hear these days all the time about disruption. A number of people have focused on this because they feel it hasn't changed significantly in the last 70 to 80 years, so there is the potential for disruption. From your opinion, or from where you sit, where within the payment infrastructure is there greatest potential to disrupt?
See, here's what's, I think, very important. When we talk about the payments infrastructure, I think what people also have to focus on is commerce. And they also have to understand how the convergence of online, offline is radically changing the opportunity. So one example, just as a factoid, as most people here know, currently 9% of retail spend is on mobile, projected to grow to around 11% by 2018, and 30% of that is on mobile devices or tablets. Now here's a lesson that I think was very obvious, but when he did it, he was heavily criticized. And then, of course, he was viewed as this visionary, which was totally appropriate, is when Steve Jobs started Apple stores. People said, why are you doing this? Because all of this is online. He said, you don't get it. The digital environment is going to change the retail experience. And so the role that mobile and web-enabled sales, and what's critical there is web-enabled sales means there's some touch point in the digital medium, but the sale is actually consummated offline. 75% of the growth in retail from 2014 to 2018 is going to come from web-enabled sales, and mobile is going to play a very important role.
How do you make it easier, from your standpoint, for a customer to complete that sale? Because the problem with mobile is that so many of the potential sales get dropped right at the end, because it's too difficult to make that payment.
Well, I think the key thing is the simplicity to make it seamless, and that's what we try to do. That's what Apple Pay is trying to do. That's what we're doing in making our membership rewards point redemption absolutely seamless, very easy to do on mobile. What you've got to do is provide people with convenience. I give the example, if people think narrowly of payments, I think one of the companies that has been very disruptive and has made a fundamental change in payments is Uber. The reality is I don't have to think about it. It's done. And so I think what is clear, if you want to be disruptive, you've got to understand the whole commerce journey and the role that payments will play in that journey.
When you have a system, though, where you don't even have to think about it, how do you protect the American Express brand, or how do you keep it relevant? If I make a payment, I'm not thinking, well, maybe I did at the entry point, I put my American Express card, but eventually, you may forget about it, so how do you keep it relevant?
The reality is that real brands, really great brands and strong brands, develop rational and emotional connections with customers. I could care less about the payments form factor. I could care less if plastic goes away. What we've seen is that our brand has been enhanced by our digital transformation because people value the service that we provide and the services that we provide. So the reality is that Uber, we're doing very well with Uber. We have a great relationship with them. As many of you hopefully know, you can get your membership reward points on Uber, and it's easy and it's seamless. and what we've been able to do with Twitter, what we've been able to do with Facebook. The key thing at the end of the day is the service and the brand and the value that we provide. And in fact, what we've seen is since we have embarked heavily on our digital transformation, our brand has continued to increase in value, and that is consistent with all the brand surveys that are being done.
So talk about your other client, that being the merchant, because
Yep.
you are seeing pushback. I think the most notable example of that is the Merchant Customer Exchange, which is launching its own mobile app in the next year. And this was created primarily so that the merchants would no longer have to pay the fees to your company, to Visa, to MasterCard as well. First of all, how big of a threat do you think this could be to your business?
Well, here's the point. We still don't know what currency, what it will consist of, but there are a few points that I would make. Last year, $952 billion spent globally on our cards. What's critical is that merchants, most importantly, everybody would like to have the lowest price possible. But what's most important for merchants is they want to grow sales. They want to see new customers. How are we using our global integrated platform for insights that help provide them with marketing promotions that will drive sales? Now, what's going to be very critical for currency or any provider in payments is, are they meeting customer needs? That's where you got to start. There may be a set of benefits that you'll derive as a result of meeting those customer needs, but the test is going to be fundamentally for them is, can they come up with innovative ways? And what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to give people incentives for changing their behavior. That is not easy. So they're going to have to change that behavior. Secondly, for the merchant, the reality is they got to have volume. So they may like a low price, but if they don't have volume, that's going to be a problem. And so they are going to have to demonstrate, to be a factor, they're going to have to demonstrate that they can generate value for merchants, that they can help drive sales, and that they can provide a value proposition to consumers that's meaningful and relevant in their lives.
So talk about Optin, because this is one of the services that you've set up with merchants, to expand your brand, right, because you offer a floor that they can pay you what they want, as
right,
far as long as it's above a floor. And then what is the value proposition for them as far as the services that you give a customer to use your card to increase their sales?
Yeah, here's the deal. The program is called OpBlue.
OpBlue.
OpBlue, it's all right. And it's focused on small businesses, because the reality is we meet the vast majority of spending needs of our customers. But the reality is that we need to expand our merchant acceptance with small merchants. And so OpBlue is a very seamless way where we're working with third parties, and a good number of third parties who are very prominent in acquiring merchants. And it's simple from a pricing standpoint. The terms are simple. We are very pleased with the early results. We think it's going to have a very important impact in helping drive our acceptance to small businesses. Now, the reality is, our closed loop, our marketing insights, allows us to provide different types of promotions and offers that help small merchants drive their business. So it's not just getting the acceptance, it's getting the engagement that you need with the customer and becoming more relevant. And we think that this program is off to a very good start for us.
In speaking to a number of people before I spoke with you, a lot of them wanted to see what the departure of Dan Schulman means for your company, because when he came in, a lot of people thought that he might be a successor to you at one point. You know, he was the person to drive your digital business, et cetera. So with him leaving, what does it mean for American Express?
Here's the point. I think Dan got a good opportunity at PayPal. We actually work with PayPal, so I think our paths will cross again many times. But the reality is we haven't missed a beat. We're very fortunate that we have Neil Sample, who actually was the person who had the most to do with the Serve platform. who created the functionality, the capabilities. He has a real strong commercial focus. He is entrepreneurial in his thinking, and we have not missed a beat at all. Sometimes when someone leaves, it can be disruptive, but I can tell you, and certainly wish Dan well on the part that he worked with us on and partners with us, but we just have not missed a beat at all. And it goes to the robust process we have from a succession standpoint. So the reality is, I hesitated for a nanosecond, not at all. We knew exactly who we would put in that position, and I'm very, very confident that we're going to go forward, and I'm very, very pleased. Neil's off to a great start.
I want to ask you a quick question about security, because Apple Pay, of course, one of the elements of it that's so exciting is
tokenization.
The tokenization, and actually the biometrics.
That's right.
So some people say, you know, if you have biometrics, eventually that will do away with the need, maybe even for an EMV chip to some extent, which is where the industry is going right now. So let's say 3 years from now, will biometrics be the key to security? What are your
Here's
thoughts?
what's important is, I think it's going to take a while. The reality is, again, because of our unique platform that we have, our credit loss rates, our fraud loss rates are substantially lower than the industry overall. But you're also asking merchants to change their point of sale terminals, the extent to which you ask consumers to change their behavior. I think that there will be a series of choices that consumers and merchants have. I think over time, there will be one or two technologies that will win out. What is absolutely critical is to be flexible enough and to be technology agnostic that you can go with whatever technology works and whatever technology your customers want you to go with. And we fortunately have that type of platform.
When you leave American Express, and I'm not saying it's going to happen anytime soon, but as you pointed, it's a 164-year-old company. It was a freight services company. You know, when you exit, what do you want? How do you want people to describe it?
I think at the end of the day, what I want people to think about our company is that we're a company that's about reinvention. We're a company that understands that service is, in fact, a terrific mission, and that we're a welcoming, inclusive brand that is going to become even more meaningful in the lives of many people. And what we're about is winning in the marketplace, and I think we will continue to do that. And by doing that, we'll be a player not just in payments, but in commerce and lifestyle services.
Ken, we want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Ken Chenault.
Thank you.